Over, so it's 5:30. Let's call the meeting of the Katuitt Fire District Board of Fire Commissioners, Tuesday, March 9th, 2021 to order. Roll call. Present, Commissioner Pisano,
Commissioner Conley,
Commissioner Zace,
Chief Rude, Deputy Chief Poliot.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, let's go. I don't see anybody for public comment.
Chief, Rick, it also looks like we have Shane Clark is on.
Right, I saw Shane there. But our usual public commenters aren't present, so we'll skip ahead to review and approval of previous meeting minutes. I had no problem with the minutes as they were printed in the draft. How about you two?
All good.
Yeah, they're all good.
All right. Like a motion to accept them as printed.
So
So moved. Okay, there we go.
Second. In
Second,
favor, Pisano.
Conley,
Zace,
Let's go to the Chief's report, monthly activities.
All right, let's see. So for the month of February, we had 58 total responses, 2 of which were fires. One was I think one was a chimney fire, one was a fire contained to a stove, to a oven. 43 medical calls, 2 hazardous conditions, which were wires down, and then 11 service good intent or false alarm calls. Administration, PPE supply is good. COVID vaccine, all of our staff has gotten both vaccines. We are still continuing conversations with the town health department about assisting with vaccinating the public, but they have not been able to obtain vaccine to vaccinate. So we'll repeatedly let them know that our staff and we are ready to help assist. They just aren't getting the supply. The feds and state have directed it to private pharmacies and in the mass distribution sites. So we haven't been able to help give the vaccine. Let's see. Also under administration. So Deputy Pouliot over the last month has been working with the state to get rid of our foam supply. So we have firefighting foams on our truck. It's a Class A environmentally friendly foam. It's didn't have PFAS that we know of. It was a newer foam. However, we haven't used it in many, many years, and it is used as an aid in wet down. It's not a requirement to put a fire out. So politically, it was it's a better decision to get rid of it. It's not a requirement for doing our job. It doesn't. Someone else will admit it doesn't aid us to any. It aids us to less than it creates a public problem. So if we were to use it on a car fire and there's foam everywhere, you know, the PFAS is a big issue in the public, and it's easier just not to have it. So the state has come down, removed it, cleaned out our truck, and it's gone. We have no more in the station. If we do need Class B foam for liquid fires, we've got Hyannis Fire with their equipment they use for the airport, and Otis Air Force Base, Joint Base Cape Cod Fire has large amounts of firefighting foams for liquid fires if we were ever to need it, but we don't need it.
Good. Joe, thank you very much for taking care of that.
Chief, one quick question. I was looking at the runs by responding unit report. So did 265 go out at all in the past 30 days?
I think it was the 2 fires. I think 263 went because 265 was out of service. It over the last month, it went up to Allegion's fire apparatus for repair in Walpole. It had a fried clutch pulley for the air compression system, for the air conditioning system. So it was brought up there and repaired. So it was out of service when those 2 calls came in.
Okay. All right.
hey, Chief, a couple quick ones. So I follow up on what you just stated.
Yep.
On that one, I think if you look back at the last minutes, I think we were talking about whether or not that was going to be a warranty situation or not. Do we have any luck with that?
We did and we didn't. So in December, we had some repair work done to the exhaust system on 265, which was warranty. So anything related to the powertrain, to the diesel. I'm not sure if it's what motor, it's Detroit or Cummins. Anything related to the motor and the powertrain typically has I think it's a 5-year warranty. Anything related to the Pierce fire apparatus, the fire equipment build itself is typically a 1-year warranty. So the emissions problems were covered under warranty. That was about a $2,000 bill. But the add-ons to the motor, which includes the air compressor, was not. So, so half was covered, half wasn't. So,
Okay, thank you for that. The other question I had is PPE, we're in good shape for PPE. Are we still helping the hospital at this point, or are we out, is that taking care of itself?
that's taken care of itself. They've been on their own for, I think, since late fall. So we've been just taking care of ourselves.
Okay,
And our supply is fine. We've got a good supply of it.
great, thank you.
Yep. Training. The guys did an ice rescue drill on February 26th. They went down to, I think, No Bottom Pond, practiced some rescues in what was left of the ice. Fortunately, I think the ice is done for the year, but they got a good drill in on the 26th.
Hey, Chief,
Yeah.
just real quick on that. I was there. I thought it was very impressive what I saw. They did offer to throw me in, but I'm not sure what that really meant ultimately. But yeah, it was all a very good drill.
I think it was actually taught mostly by Brian Lee and Christian Gardner, our two newer firefighters. They actually went to an ice training class up in Maine last year, and they brought the techniques and training back to the guys. So that was the purpose for the drill.
Very cool.
We're going to do some brush fire training this month on the 29th and 30th. So the 29th, we're going out to Joint Base Cape Cod, working with the forest warden, state forest warden for Barnstable County. We're going to be going over brush firefighting techniques, chainsaw operations on the 29th. And then on the 30th, they'll be doing a brush breaker driving operations practice out on the base as well. So looking forward to that. If either of the commissioners want to attend that, they're more than welcome to come.
Actually, I was wondering if I could invite you over to my place so you could practice your chainsaw technique on some things that I need removed. Okay, that's the 29th. Okay, good.
Pro EMS reports attached. IOD update. We have nobody out on IOD. I think last month we had one out on IOD. He was out for about 2 weeks, I think. But everybody's back and healthy right now. Nobody out on COVID, quarantine, or IOD. Apparatus. We've been working with the owners of the dock where we have kept 266, the fireboat, for the last couple of years. We finalized some liability insurance issues and got an email back actually just this afternoon that we're good to go for this year on the same dock. So I'll be finalizing the language for the liability and agreement and invoice by the end of the week.
Is that the same general neighborhood of cost?
Yeah, they didn't indicate an increase in cost. I'm assuming it's going to be the $5,500, the same as it's been for the last couple of years.
Okay.
And that's at 916
Thank you for
Main
bringing that
Street.
to a conclusion.
What's that?
Thank you for bringing that to a conclusion. Appreciate that.
We've been trying to come up with a more long-term solution, either a long-term lease for this dock or something else, but have been unsuccessful so far. So someday, hopefully, we'll have a long-term permanent solution. 261, the lettering's complete on my car. What else? 262 went out for repair on Monday. It had another problem with the exhaust system. Hopefully the last piece of the exhaust system. It went to SAV in Wareham, the international dealership. They made us believe, they stated it'd be about an 8-hour repair period. They should complete it all in one day. The deputy and I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and made sure we had it at opening at 6 a.m. and they did not complete it. So it was out of service all day Monday and Monday night. We picked it up this morning. So more maintenance issues for the ambulance. We're up over $20,000 in repair for the ambulance to date. Facilities, renovations are still ongoing. The two new rooms on the first floor have been framed out. They've been insulated, wired, waiting on sheetrock, which should happen this week. And hopefully will be done shortly. And I'll be able to move my office downstairs and anticipate closing out this article by the end of the fiscal year.
Thanks for sharing the pictures. That they look good.
Yeah, they're doing.
Chief, we already have the doors in stock for that, don't we?
Yes, the doors are in stock for that. Just have to be installed. They ordered when they ordered the other doors.
Good.
The only other thing, I think it's on. No, I guess that's it. Everything else is covered under new and old business. Any questions?
Not at this point. I will have one when we talk about another topic.
Okay.
Right. Okay, under old business, the Policy Advisory Committee update.
We had a meeting on the 5th. I'm sorry, not the 5th. Whenever it was, doesn't matter. I can't remember. We talked about two items, and one was the capital projects draft, which I think we now have. We seems to be in SharePoint, so I'm assuming that you guys have both seen that.
Yeah.
And we talked about the proposal around creating an historical log of those policies that have been approved by the Prudential Committee. That's in process. So those two things were discussed. There were some changes that were made or are being made to the proposal around the capital projects, the SIP policy. It was put before the committee, and Ray had some comments, and so I think that's what's reflected in the modified language that's in front of everybody. And the other one just might take some time to figure out how to actually put together a process by which those things that have been, those policies that have been approved, logged or presented on the website. And so that's a work in progress. We do have another meeting on the 5th of April to sort of circle back and see where those things stand.
Adam, I
Not
apologize.
before April.
What?
Adam, I apologize. I don't know what that means. What was that last part you said? It may take some time. Could you just back up that last 30 seconds?
So there were two things discussed. One is a policy proposal around capital projects.
Right.
And the second one is a proposal around creating a public view of things, much like we have views of bylaws and meeting minutes and so forth, but a place on either the website or some place where policies that have been approved by that have been forwarded out of this committee to the Prudential Committee and have been approved and implemented, to create a log of those, an historical record of those, which doesn't seem to exist now. So.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
Sure.
Adam, I had a couple of questions about this. When I reviewed the initial plan, the issues that I think Ray addressed in his draft response were the same ones that I was coming up with about it. And they seemed, although I could understand their intent, I really had difficulty, which apparently he did also, with the practicalities of implementation. And when I read his draft response, I really thought that what he created was a much simpler
yeah, I did too.
methodology.
Yeah, I did too. And I think at the risk of sort of dumbing it down, I think the changes are fine. The intent of this, so the document originated from Silvio, if you all remember, and it was something that he had been, it was a kind of a model that he had been working with at other places and so forth. And so those, he basically lifted all that text and put it into this. And some of those things may have been unwieldy given its application or the context of a fire district versus a municipality or a school, a school board, that kind of thing. So as I understand it, the changes based on my reading of it over the past few days is, I think they seem perfectly straightforward and fair. And my expectation is that they'll be approved by the Prudential Committee.
The second question I had about this came in regard to the management portion, the last portion of that original proposal, which Ray did not address. And I've read it and reread it, and I don't understand the who implicit in it. Who does this?
So let me try to find the original. So at the maybe the best thing to do is to if you have specific, I think, as I understand it, this is the text has gone out to all the boards. So the water commissioners have it and so forth. And if you have, certainly as the chair, I think it's your right to say back to either the policy advisory committee or the Prudential Committee directly, any concerns you have. I've just got so many freaking tabs open, I can't find the original.
Well, I was just wanted to know if you could clarify that for me in terms of whether there was any discussion of a specific implementer, I should say, of that management, because it seemed to need, if some version of it was going to happen, it needed somebody to do it, and I couldn't figure out who it was that was supposed to do it. Ray's simplifications of the first part made a lot of sense to me because he highlighted that many of those review functions are exactly what our job is or includes.
Yeah.
In fact, we're going to be doing a lot of that tonight.
Right. I think there's a lot of overlap in this, given that the way we do business now versus what's trying to sort of put some framework around such activities going forward. So my understanding, and we did discuss this, although not as in depth as we are now, that it is up to each commission to essentially handle all their planning activities, sort of the way we do now with the budgets, but to try to evolve or expand that into a larger context of longer term planning and so forth. And certainly as it relates to specific things like buying new ambulances or new pumps and whatnot. So I think it's part us, part each commission, and part the Prudential Committee.
Okay. We have been invited, I think I sent you both notices.
Yep.
For the March 29th meeting of the Prudential Committee will be a special meeting, which will include our committee and the water commissioners as well, to address
Right, I have that on my calendar.
all of this in more detail. I just wanted to get a sense of where we were as a group ahead of that meeting.
Well, I think like many of these sorts of things, it feels to me like this activity is a little bit a trailing edge as opposed to a leading edge of how we actually conduct business. so it feels like we're trying to just codify something that everyone can agree to and say, yeah, this is in fact policy that we have, that when it comes time to plan and make capital expenditures, that there's, I don't believe we're not following a process. It's just that there hasn't been a specific policy like this enacted by the, or agreed to, or supported, or ratified by the Prudential Committee. And so it may feel a little ungainly because we're sort of trying to create words around something that's already been going on for a long time. That said, I do think it's probably okay, especially with Ray's simplifications.
Quick question for everybody. When you talk about Ray's simplifications, are we talking about the text edit Ray made to the original document, or the total rewrite, 2-page rewrite that he came up with?
I was reviewing the 2-page thing. I think it was down
Okay.
from 3.5 pages or something like that.
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't
was
an
I.
edited version, it was a total rewrite of the
Right.
ideas and okay, all right.
Yeah, that's where I think every commission, certainly I am, but each of the commissions, and that rewrite it comes sort of with the, if not explicit, certainly the tacit approval of the Prudential Committee. So that's what we should be talking about, not really. I mean, yes, it's good to look at the delta between what was done before initially by Silvio and then this one. But look at the 2-page one. That's basically the, as I understand it, what we should be doing.
Good. Good. If there's nothing more on that for the moment, I'd like to move to the elementary school committee update,
Sure.
which also falls to you, Adam.
So to make it very, very brief, there's a new subcommittee, and forgive me, it's Jim, Jackie, and Mark Lynch, I believe. And there's a letter being written. Have you guys, I believe that letter has been sent around. Has
I
anyone
haven't seen it.
All right, so
Kevin, did you see it?
No,
Chief?
I'm not sure.
okay, well, I don't know whether it's been official or not, but I know I have seen some because I'm on the committee. But so there's a lot of moving parts, I suppose, but basically there's a group of folks that have been meeting. I have not been involved, so they've been meeting an executive session with council, so I don't really know what's going on in those things specifically, so I can't report on that. I do know that this group has been communicating certainly amongst themselves and with the town, and has come up with a letter that I have received. I don't know if I'm supposed to forward that on yet, so I need to get a reading on that. I was not able to do that prior to this meeting, but because it was from Jim to the committee, so I guess it's okay for. I'll send it around. What I'll do after this meeting, I will email Jim or call Jim immediately and then send it around to you. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
If it's okay.
Okay.
The town, if you pay attention to Jessica Rapp-Grassetti's newsletters, it is on the destruction of the building is a line item, but it doesn't appear that it will be taken up by the town for the fiscal year 2022, and the number stands north of 900 grand. So as I understand it, we're still in this a negotiating phase, but a holding pattern in terms of a decision. There hasn't been a decision made. I do know that there has been some conversation and some presentations sent around by the water department or the water commission around providing actually a pretty nice view of the the wellhead area and the overlay of the plot and so forth. And it's interesting, Chief, that you bring up the idea of, or, the point of the foam. There's still a great deal, as I understand it, a concern around the use of that area as a fire station. That said, David Sherbuck has been brought onto the committee as well by virtue of being just as a citizen of the village, having written a letter. And one of the main points of that letter was that, hey, wouldn't it be a great idea to put a fire station there? So, but presumably with no foam or things like that. So, net, things are still moving forward.
I've got some updates on that too.
I asked just real quick, Chief, just real quick question. I apologize. Adam, has the town, I know there's a lot of conversations and I know you referenced the destruction of the building. Has the town agreed that they are willing to turn the property / building over to the village?
There have been comments made to that effect. I don't think it necessarily by David Anthony, but it doesn't necessarily reflect a decision or a consensus on the part of the town.
Okay, I got that and I appreciate that. And I know you said that there's been conversations with the lawyers, I think executive session. Have those been the lawyers from the town or they've been the village's lawyers?
No, I believe that subgroup, the sub has been advised by our Mark Boudreau. But Chief, if you know something different,
So
if you can share it, then please do.
yeah, and then I'll let the chief go and maybe he has. I'm just kind of curious because one of the conversations we had, I think last month, was that there was a subcommittee, and I think there's a couple now on the subcommittee, but there was a subcommittee that was trying to get in touch with the town to see if the town was willing to have the conversation with us. Has that been? Do we know if that's been established? I know there's been some sub comments, but
yeah, no, there was, when we last spoke, there was a subcommittee, and now there's a different subcommittee, which is the same portfolio, different people. And my take is, or what I've heard is that they have been in conversations. Now let's see, they have been in contact with the right people at the town.
okay, cool, great, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I suspect that the next that we have a meeting of the full committee coming up, so I'll know a hell of a lot more.
And when is that?
Chief, go ahead while I look for that.
Thank you.
So Mark Boudreau, the district's attorney, did meet with the full committee in executive session to discuss strategy with negotiations with the town. Obviously, it's executive session. I can't really comment on what was said there. That I had a meeting with the assistant town manager last week, who said the asset advisory committee has voted to enter negotiations with the district, and they have every intention to transferring the property to the fire district. They are not talking with anybody else, have no intentions of talking to any other parties, and absolutely expect the property to ultimately get transferred.
Great, thank you.
With respect to the fire station and maybe concerns about the fire station being on the property, the school is just about the identical distance from the wellhead is the current fire station. They're almost identical. So it is not in the school property is not in the zone 1 well protection area. It's in the zone 2, which encompasses a great deal of the fire district, including vehicle repair facilities and other commercial entities. So that's kind of, let's see, I guess that's all I got.
Well, those are two pretty important things.
Yeah. Where the hell is the next meeting? I'll have to.
That's okay.
I'm not sure a second meeting has been scheduled. So the Civic Association has sent out emails, which I got. Evidently you guys didn't. I'll forward it to you. They sent out a kind of a 1 or 2 page summary of where things stand. And they also sent out an announcement that there will be a meeting on the.
It's on the 25th. Yeah, yeah, that's an info session. Okay, so it's not a meeting of the group. It's an info session put on by them, right? Yeah.
I heard that somebody's, I'm not sure who, I heard of, from someone that there may be a meeting scheduled before that to prep for that meeting, but I'm not aware of any date that's been set.
Yeah. So to add to the chief, a lot of the progress has been made by the 3 people on that subcommittee, versus as opposed to the entire committee, which is
Not surprising.
not surprising. Yeah, it's a little unwieldy to have a group of 10 people sort of
Right.
and which is the rationale behind creating that subgroup. So
Cool, thank you.
We also, just so on the same topic, I have a draft amendment to the current district facilities analysis study that was done. There's a draft amendment. An amendment would be to look at all district facilities, cost and feasibility of making them meet current needs, cost and feasibility of renovating the school to meet those needs, and this cost and feasibility of a new structure. So I forward that to the Prudential Committee and to the Chairman Pisano. So there might be
is that from your guy that that you invited to a meeting the other?
no.
Okay.
Nope. So the company that we did one RFQ, and we did a designer feasibility process, and the district chose an architectural company. Their name now is Catalyst. So Catalyst is the company who did the feasibility study with the district offices, according to
On the 56 High Street property.
56 High Street. So we have the option of amending that contract to expanding their scope of services without going back out to bid and doing a new designer feasibility process. So one of the options for the district is to sign an amendment without going through a long, complicated process and allowing them to do the study. The other option is going back out, doing a new designer selection process, and possibly bringing a different architectural company. So I talked to Fran Parks, a chairwoman of the Prudential, and she's pretty comfortable with Catalyst. I thought they did a good job, so I forwarded that to them. Hopefully they'll consider that for inclusion as an article on the district meeting. I also sent them a draft or an example OPM RFQ document. So the other thing we can do is go out for bid for an owner's project manager who will help oversee the study and give a level of impartiality and expertise to the process. So I think that Prudential will probably be considering those shortly as well.
Chief, do we have any idea what the cost of the amendment is?
I don't have a number. Originally, we had talked with the architects and we were looking at the possibility of $40,000 or $50,000. The school subcommittee, or the committee that was set up by Prudential, the school committee, kind of asked, I think, for an expanded scope. They want, like I said, they want to look at current facilities and ability to renovate, expand to meet needs, the school, and the third possibility of just a new build altogether. So looking at those 3 proposals is a little larger scope. So they haven't come back with an estimate as to what that would cost yet.
Good, thank you.
I remember that conversation. I think Jim might have been, but it doesn't really matter. The idea was to try to present and presume and well, be as transparent as possible with the village and the district around all the possibilities, not just some of them. So, like, okay, here's what it would be to build something new. Here's what it would be to renovate, that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay. I'm going to ask to juggle the next 2-item order. Skipping the draft budget, which is probably a longer conversation, and just seeing if we can get done with the call firefighter EMT compensation item, which we discussed last month, and which you both asked for a little time to think it over. And what has that thinking produced? Where are we?
So is it okay if I go, Kevin? I am not against paying an appropriate wage for people. The problem that I had was whether it was really a big issue. I don't think I've changed my general point of view, which is I don't understand why we're doing this necessarily, but if it's the chief and the deputy chiefs, it's really their expertise that I have to bow to. If they view it as a necessity, then I agree that we should, despite the fact that he seems to come to seems to be very enthused about the work, even at the previous pay, that we should up level to the to appropriate pay level that is matched by other places.
Well, the deputy chief is the one who originally submitted this proposal, and we've got him right here. So maybe we
I know
ask
that,
him to-
so Joe, I mean, I take it for granted that your point of, I have to bow to your point of view about the wisdom of doing this, and so therefore I'll have to get over, any issues I have and be supportive of it enthusiastically, in fact. But so that's the thinking that I've done since we met last time.
I mean, he's here, and he's here. He was here today for.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
Besides myself, he was the only one here. So,
And
it gives us more options if we have to retrieve vehicles, and he is a trained EMT. So if we had to respond to the ambulance, he and I could have done that.
As I said, I support what you guys are telling us as a commissioner. I'm not a firefighter. I'm not, so I believe you. Therefore, I will be supportive of this.
Kevin, what about you?
I think I'm good to go with the motion at this point.
Okay. One last question, Joe. You in this proposal pointed to the $20 an hour target rate. I saw a little bit of information about comparison to, was it Barnstable or West Barnstable?
West Barnstable.
Uh-huh.
And they do a pay-per-call system.
Which is like what we would be.
No, we're paying by the hour. West Barnstable pays their members $28 a call.
Oh, but it's an actual call versus coming in to cover.
Yes. And
Okay.
if they say they do a 5-hour shift, they get paid $68. And then they're paid, I think it's $35 for a 3-hour drill that it's mandatory for them to make. And I checked with the second larger call department, which is Brewster, and this is the $20 is in line to what their firefighters at the same step Matt would be getting. And then I looked at where Stop and Shop is paying $16 an hour with very little risk compared to what Matt's doing. And it's also could be, I mean, he's in the medical class and we might be hiring him down the road. So I think it's an investment in our future.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to accept the compensation adjustment as described in the deputy chief's proposal to offer $20 an hour for when he is on call.
As stated.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Third.
Any further discussion? None heard.
I was just going to say, I happened to go into Stop and Shop the other day, Joe, and I saw that sign too. I said, well, better at our place than the Stop and Shop. Yeah, I understand it's a different, slightly different hourly rate, but quite a different job.
All those in favor of the motion?
Zace.
Zon.
Con-
Zace. Conley passed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Now, let's get into the draft budget, which we are going to be presenting on the 15th to Prudential. And let me begin by asking, typically the chief and I have gone to the Prudential meeting in which we present this. Were either of you interested in also going, in which case we would have to post an agenda and have a meeting of the fire commissioners as well.
Yeah, I have interest, but I think that just the mechanics of it make it a little, I think it'd be fine if you guys go.
Kevin,
Rick, what's the date?
the 15th?
Yeah, unfortunately, I could not attend that either way, but thank you for asking.
Okay. Well, then let's get down to the nuts and bolts of what Chief and I will be carrying to the Prudential Committee as a proposal for next year. You should have on your,
Yep, we got it.
I'm going to share the screen.
No, I'm looking at the PowerPoint already.
and I have a hard copy, so.
Yeah,
Kevin, do you have
Chief,
something you can see or do you want it on screen?
I have it, but I just assume it'd be on the screen if you don't mind.
Okay, Chief, can you put that up?
Just so that we're all on the same page. Thank you, Chief.
Very good. And let's go down to the first page, which is salary and wages. Here we have the proposed FY22. This is pretty much all by approved, already approved contract. And as I had gone through it, looking at the two line items, sick coverage and full-time injury, seem to be the ones where we have to make a judgment call as opposed to being already structured by contract. I'm looking at expenditures. And I would be hesitant to do any adjustment in sick coverage in our current circumstance. Actually, in either of those, but I wanted to open it to discussion with the two of you. Have you had thoughts about anything on this page?
Well, since you're talking about sick coverage, where do we expect we'll end up? Fiscal 21 actual?
Hold on one sec. I'll see what I can pull up here. Mid-year.
The joys of paper.
Hold on, okay, mid-year. So sick coverage, we're looking at about $20,000 this year.
And we had budgeted 100,000 last year
Right.
for the current year.
Mhm.
So we're running well under that. And
And what was the other one? So that you're proposing a level funding or level ask
Right.
for, and what was the other one?
Was full-time injury.
That's right. So where's FT injury?
Injury at FY20, we're at almost $160,000. So about double. Other years it's been zero.
Is that a real number? The fiscal year 19 of $700?
Yes. Yep. And the year before was zero. We had nobody injured, It was a good year. FY20 was not a good year.
Can we borrow from FY19 yet?
Yeah, that'd be nice. We just give the money back. So assuming we don't spend that much this year, it just all goes back. It's not like we get to use it somewhere else. So it's kind of an insurance policy.
Uh,
So,
Not much.
My own thinking-
I think the rationale's fine, Rick.
okay.
The other things are mandated by the contract, right?
Right, chief, deputy chief, full-time, longevity,
No, I didn't mean the deputy chief or the chief. I mean the things like
right,
yeah.
the next, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5 items are, pretty much, contract. And then, yeah. That's pretty much all by contract.
is the so the why is there? Oh, okay. So the things like the actuals for 18 and 19 in education incentives, is that
They were actually, I got to get the numbers from treasurer. So we don't actually budget 2 line items for salary and incentive. They are in the same line item, the same budget. They use the same account because the older firefighters, the more senior firefighters have their education built into their pay. The treasurer has one account to pay both education. Either way, if it's in your pay or if it's a once a year stipend, it comes out of the same account. So they many years just show it as one item and they don't break it up. So I have to go back and split up FY 20 and 18 and find specifically out how much of that was education, but it should have been about the $45,000. But I'll get the real numbers and add those in there.
And in our last round of contract negotiations, there were adjustments made,
right?
so that, this is where, this is pretty much structured by contract. If you see in longevity pay, which is also structured by contract, and yet we had a decrease, or we're proposing a decrease, because we've had staff turnover and have newer staff with less longevity. So their rate of reimbursement has gone down, although it will steadily climb over the years. But for this year at least, that's an item that we had some reduction in.
We do a spreadsheet with every one of our staff. Their pay, it's a split year pay, so the pay changes halfway through the year. We add in their pay, average everything. We put all their leave balances, so that's changes from year to year. Their education was changes from year to year. Average their pay and then apply the average pay rate, overtime rate, to all the personal hours that they're going to use and vacation hours. And this is kind of what it spits out. And it's usually pretty close to right on.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments about salary and wages?
Yeah, I think 14.62% is going to open some eyes.
We hashed
However,
that contract over.
I am mollified a bit by the sort of the bottom line of the entire budget. Of under 4%. So, I think, right, it's a 3 point something.
Yep. Let's go to that second page, next page, Chief. Here, when we look at operations, and you can jump down to the bottom and look at actually a 4% reduction in what's proposed. The estimates that we make about electricity and heating and diesel are just that, they're estimates. As you've seen with the price of gas and diesel just in the past month, it's a volatile area, but we've given ourselves a margin and we think we'll do all right with it. The repair maintenance on vehicles.
Yeah, yeah.
Is the
It's a bit of a roll of the dice, isn't it?
right. And with our significant overage this year, that raises a couple of questions that don't immediately impact this page, but certainly impact our requests for the coming fiscal year in terms of articles. But I wanted to just have you go through this page first before we expand the conversation to those particulars.
Question about vehicles. Is it at all fair to say that pumpers cost more in or less than ambulances over time in terms of their repair costs, et cetera, maintenance?
I guess that's a really good question. Lifespan in an ambulance, we've been running at 8 years. There are some departments that do 6. So ambulance has a cost of $300,000 to $350,000 and has a life expectancy of 8 years. A pumper has a life expectancy of 20 years and costs nowadays their costs around $600,000. So their capital upfront costs.
I get the difference there. I was just wondering about the sort of the more of the operational maintenance costs. Are they equivalent, vastly different?
They should be equivalent. Our ambulance this year has kind of blown the budget out of the water, but that shouldn't have been the case. They should have been similar.
Okay.
Any
I
other
think
comments?
this looks fine.
So Rick, I have no questions. I had the opportunity to connect with the chief and pretty much go line item by line item, so I understand,
Oh, good.
where we're at. So, yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Can we go to the next page then, Chief? So we're going to propose as you can see on this page, it's laid out differently than my paper copy. So let me just go to the screen.
See, it's a good thing we put it on the screen.
Yeah. When we come down to under 4% total, and that includes maintaining the pretty much flat funding everything on the page. I think that this is a reasonable estimate to come out by the end of the next fiscal year, barring catastrophe. But we have a couple of elements in play here because of the problems we've been having with vehicles. Under our long-term capital program, that in light of our earlier discussion about the recommended policy about long-term planning, I think we're going to have to make some real adjustments in our proposals for article funding typically when we do this presentation to Prudential, we present what we've just covered, and we can come out with a 3.79 overall increase. And I feel comfortable about defending the cost and the estimates that we're making. But we have a couple of considerations. Next year would be the year in which the deputy's vehicle would be considered for replacement again. We managed to boot that out a year. And although it's had some repair costs, we got away with it without anything too bad happening. Joe, how's it running?
It's hanging in there. It does okay.
Okay.
Little things, but it's good.
Right, because that's Chief, what are we talking? Do we have a page for it?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, it's one of the
Yeah.
next pages.
Okay, just before we go, the 3.79%, that doesn't
Yep.
include new growth, property valuations. Ray's gonna come up with a number. Hopefully it'll be closer to 2.5, but we'll find that out after Ray gets all the budgets.
So a replacement vehicle for the deputy chief, we're looking at, as you see, an estimation of about 48,000 to get it fully equipped. And the reason that I'm ambivalent about this is because we have an opportunity which has presented itself to consider purchasing a used ambulance to have as a backup and a transitional vehicle while we try to nurse our current expenditures in repairs on the current ambulance, to amortize it out over a few more years and get some return on that investment. But I think it is something to consider, this opportunity to buy a spare ambulance at a modest price, and that may or may not be a circumstance where we put both of these articles forward for the next fiscal year and both purchase the ambulance if inspection everything goes through and it's as good as advertised, and at the same time replace the deputy vehicle, or do we do just the deputy vehicle and pass on the ambulance, or vice versa?
I have a couple of questions, or I
Yeah,
have a
you-
comment.
Can I give you a quick presentation on the two things before you ask the
Sure,
question?
absolutely.
Is that all right?
Is this the Brewster ambulance?
It is, yep. So just real quick, I'm sure you're getting these questions, that I got some information beyond what's on the slide. The deputy's vehicle, it's the same exact vehicle I have. It's gone up $3,000 in base price since last year. I'd also ask that instead of trading it in, which has very close to only a couple $1,000 value, that we consider donating it to West Barnstable for a service vehicle. On the ambulance, bigger topic. We've continued to have problems with the ambulance. Ours has been out of service for almost 14 days this year. It's proven to be unreliable. And we talked to the mechanics about what does this mean going forward for next year. They can't predict. They said they can't tell us it's going to run great because we've done so much work, and they can't tell us that. They said these ambulances are also, this international engine is also known for the fuel pressure system going, which is very expensive. The motors actually sometimes blow up. Any one of those things could happen over the next year. So
That's not a good thing.
no, it's not a good thing. And we only have one. It was out of service on Monday. So Monday we had to bring it up for another $3,000 repair for the exhaust system. They assured us that it was an 8-hour job. The deputy and I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning so we could get it to their front door and wear him at 6 a.m. And we're not a priority. I don't know when they got it into repair, but it was out of service all day and all last night, and we didn't get it back till this morning. So we've been looking for a solution. We've talked to the ambulance supplier and they said they're getting a trade-in out of Brewster. That's the one that you have the picture of. It's the F550 four-wheel drive. It's in great condition. It's got about 100,000 miles on it. And we can buy it for about $35,000. So this.
So what, thanks, chief. Sorry. It sounded like you might be done. So I was going to jump in.
So we also talked about the possibility of buying a new one. So replacing our ambulance a year early. It's due for replacement next year. The chassis manufacturers, Ford and Dodge, have shut down. The supply issues, they're not making them right now. So even if we decided to put one on the agenda for May, it would take us over a year to get it. So waiting a year to buy one might get it, we could get it 6 months later. So if we wait till the regular schedule time till next year, we could end up having to use this one for 6 extra months, which isn't a lot. So buying an immediate one is not really an option. This one's going to become available in December. It's not available today. It's being replaced in the May district meeting, but the chassis has already been made and is waiting to get finished. We talked to Sandwich Fire Department. So Sandwich Fire, we've been having a discussion with them. They want a backup ambulance as well. They said if we buy the ambulance, they will equip it with BLS supplies, which is probably about $25,000. They'll put a stretcher in it. They will provide free maintenance for it. They'll have the town of Sandwich mechanic maintain the vehicle going forward. So we have zero maintenance costs on this one, barring a major problem. So if it blows an engine or transmission, we'll have to come up with a cost share. They suggested we buy the parts, they provide the labor. But it'd be a shared expense. So as it's written now, it's a $35,000 cost. The other option for us, this is just a spare vehicle. So if ours goes out of service, we move over our advanced life support. So our cardiac monitor and our drug, we would move them over to this vehicle. So we wouldn't have the ability to run 2 medical calls at the same time. The other option is to add the ALS equipment, which would be another $30,000 to this. And then we could have the ability to run 2 calls, 2 medicals. We do about 25 to 30. We have about 25 to 30 mutual aid ambulance calls coming into Katuitt every year. So with standby and with the deputy, myself in the station, we should be able to handle at least half of those with standby and ourselves. So if we spend the extra beyond the 30, if we spend $65,000, we should be able to handle another 15, at least 15 calls a year that currently we can't handle. We have to wait for a mutual aid ambulance to come in. If you amortize the cost of this vehicle over 5 years, the Sandwich chief and mechanic seems to think as a backup, we can get 5 years out of this. The physio control monitor is about $30,000. Those are, I would like to expectancy of at least 5 years. The total cost over a 5-year period, I think, is about $14,000 a year. So if we do 14 or 15 calls a year with it, our cost per call is about $1,000. So if we fully outfit it, not the 35, but at a $65,000 expense. And we bill a little over $2,000 average for a call. We get in excess of $500 for a call in reimbursement. So our net cost per year, if we fully equip it and have it ready to go as a second ambulance, is going to be about $7,000 a year. So I think it's a fairly reasonable insurance policy. And the other thing is, so if our old ambulance dies in January of next year and it's a $30,000 repair, we just park it and wait to buy a new one and use it as a trade-in. And we use the other one and we're not out $30,000 in repair. So a little bit of an insurance policy over maintenance for an unreliable vehicle, and it solves our backup problem, second ambulance, as a shared expense, which I'm hoping is going to catch on to the other departments and will become more of a regional model. So sorry for the long explanation, but that's kind of it.
A lot to unpack there.
It is. And I kind of swung this on you last month. It's all kind of developed over the last week. So when you talked about Dodge going out of business in the international, that's the current 262, right? So yeah, to replace the current 262, the chassis that the ambulance will be built on, those chassis manufacturers, Dodge and Ford, their chassis lines for the commercial truck chassis have shut down. So we can't get one right now.
Oh, I see. Okay, so in
And
either
it's not the
case,
one that we have, it's the one that we would optimally prefer
Right,
to replace
okay.
ours with.
Right.
okay, all right. So there's this ambulance up in Brewster that would come available potentially in December. Is it potentially or definitely?
I guess there's no
Okay,
100%.
so it's still
They
potentially.
lease Brewster leases their ambulances, so they have a life expectancy of 6 years. They replace them 6 years, and they go back. They still need a formal vote of their district meeting in May, I think, to do it, but it's what they've always done, and there's no reason to expect otherwise. The ambulance manufacturer or supplier is so sure that he has already ordered the chassis for them, so they've already spent money and started to build a truck that they're 99% sure they're going to buy.
Just out of curiosity, since you mentioned that, have we ever considered leasing versus buying?
We talked about this with Ray in reference to my vehicle last year to 261. Leasing is a good way to even out capital costs. So we could, and for like the vehicle I had, we could lease it for $9,000 a year, or we could buy it for $45,000 a year. So it evens out the capital flow, but they charge an interest rate. It wasn't that much. It was, I've forgotten exactly. I think it stacked up to be 3 or 4% interest. But Ray says that we have free cash or capital that he would rather use our money than pay interest on someone else's money.
Okay,
So
all right.
it's
So,
financially better to buy.
so the ambulance up in Brewster, which potentially comes available in December, is not a Katuitt Fire Department vehicle. You're suggesting, and I'm not challenging this or pushing back. Yeah, I'm just making sure I understood what you said. You're saying that this would be shared with Sandwich.
It would be owned by Katuitt. It would be titled to Katuitt, owned by Katuitt. We would enter into an intermunicipal agreement with Sandwich. I'm not sure in the time period. We'd probably start with 1 year, and then would go from there as long as it worked out right. And the intermunicipal agreement would say, in exchange for Sandwich providing the equipment to supply it, we would allow Sandwich to take it when 2 or more of their ambulances went down for repair.
Okay.
In the event that our ambulance went down, we would get priority and we would get it back because we don't have a spare. So there would be an agreement drawn up, which I will have
Okay.
something available to
All
you by
right.
next meeting,
And where would it be housed?
in the Katuitt Fire Station.
And so how would Sandwich get it if they
Um,
need it?
They would either come get it or we would deliver it to them depending on,
okay.
the need.
And the general thrust of the agreement is a shared, cost versus, parts versus labor as it relates to potential maintenance going forward, because they have the ability to do that. Is that what I think I heard?
Yes. So Sandwich has obviously they're a whole town. They've got a larger
Sure.
support system. They've got a town mechanic and a town maintenance facility. So they would do all the routine maintenance, parts and labor. Anything other than routine, I think the proposal would be we would pay the parts and they would pay the labor.
Okay. And so it would be at the BLS level, but you're suggesting, or at least a topic for discussion is potentially moving it to ALS, and that
Right.
would require greater investment and so forth.
Right.
Okay.
If we move to ALS, we could effectively run 2 calls. If it's left at BLS, then we have, if ours goes down mechanically, we can move our advanced life support equipment over into it and then use it. But if our ambulance is out on a call and we would have, standby in the station with a deputy and myself, we really don't have the ability to
Yeah.
run a second ambulance.
Well, okay. Thank you. Now, this is what I was going to say earlier, but I will go on. I certainly restate this going record. I would prefer that we have 2 ambulances and 1 pumper, and based on the utilization. I happen to love this idea. I don't know. Hopefully, the things that are potentially become definitely and so forth. But I think it would be, this I think is a great idea.
We're also discussing future bulk purchases. So Sandwich is going to buy another ambulance next year. We're having discussions with them on whether we can buy vehicles together and get better prices. So ultimately, we'd like to have every fire department around buy the same ambulance and group purchases and have vehicles rotated around and have a spare fleet. I think there's a fairly good chance of this catching on and some of the other departments jumping in and doing this with us.
And just like, just I think dovetailing on that, replacing Joe's car gives us more flexibility too. If you think about what's rolling out, it just seems to me it's better to invest in these. Like I saw, for example, replacing the brush breaker with a pick. It just seems better to be thinking along these lines, inclusive of the ideas of bulk purchases and continued sharing and so forth, based on what the trends are for what Katuitt Fire Department does.
I agree.
I'll get off the soapbox.
Kevin, you want to get on the soapbox?
Yeah, just a couple quick comments. Thank you, Rick. And Chief, thank you very much. Great, well put together. The chief and I have had this conversation about the second ambulance, and I've made no secret about it over the years that I am very much a proponent of getting a second ambulance. So I think this is a great idea. I do believe it should be equipped with ALS. So I think that investment would be well worth it, and that we could put ourselves in a position. The numbers, Chief, you and I talked about the numbers of mutual aid ambulance. So I think you came back tonight with, and I appreciate you pulling that together. We talked about that. So 25 to 30 mutual aid ambulance a year. I think that's phenomenal, right? So that means, and I guess
That's 2 to 3 months runs a month, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the fact of the matter is, I think this would be a resource that would be utilized for all of the reasons we talked about. So I am very much in favor of it.
We're also hoping I talked to the salespeople for the cardiac monitor, which is the biggest expense. That's $31,000 for a new one. They believe we might be able to get that covered under the CARES Act too. So I'm going to work with Lisa and Ray and see if there might be a possibility that we can get most of the ALS supplies for nothing. So
That'd be great.
I have a question in that regard, Chief. The current ALS equipment that we have, how old is it, and what is its anticipated lifespan?
I believe the life packs anticipated lifespan is generally about 5 years, in which we've got maintenance contracts. So they have no cost maintenance. They maintain them 100%. They come in on a monthly basis to maintain them. And then when they expire, they trade them in for new ones, but I'm not sure the cost. Is Shane Clark still on the call? I can't see with my, hold on a second, see if I can figure this out.
Yeah, he's still, well, he may have walked away from his computer.
Yeah.
Shane, can you hear us?
And if you're talking, you're on mute, Shane.
Lieutenant Clark's the EMS.
Yeah, I'm
There
here.
he is.
What is it? What is it you're looking for?
Do you want to give, I guess your question, Rick, was life expectancy of the cardiac monitor and was it cost to replace? I've forgotten now.
Yes.
Yeah, the life expectancy is 5 years. I don't have the cost in front of me, but I can get it to you before the end of the meeting.
The cost for a new one today from the manufacturer was $31,000. So with a trade-in, I'm not sure what it comes down to, but it's probably closer to 2025.
And what are the other ALS componentry sort of bill out as?
The rest of it is medication. So ALS medications run about $7,500 for the truck.
Okay.
Would those be
It's-
provided by Sandwich in that agreement?
They haven't volunteered that yet. No, they volunteered all the BLS. They volunteered stretcher, portable stair chair, backboards, all the BLS equipment suction. They don't have an extra set of ALS medications or.
What's that, Shane?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
I mean, ultimately, it's going to be we're looking at about a $500 cost per call when we use it. And like I said, insurance policy and better coverage for 80+% of what we do. So
Absolutely. So follow-on question on the conversation of 5-year life expectancy. It's great that it's a 5-year life expectancy, that we know that. When did we put it into service?
I don't know. Lieutenant Clark, do you have that number? Was it new with this ambulance?
Not the exact date, but it's probably been 5 years or so. Right around the same time we got the ambulance.
That's what I'm thinking.
So the ambulance is coming on 7 years, right? So, I don't know. I guess I'll have to find that out. Maybe we'll see if we can get 2 in the CARES Act. I don't know.
Definitely worth looking at.
What's that?
Can't
Definitely
say
worth-
yes if you don't ask, right?
Yeah, I will find out.
I'll see if I can get that before the end of the meeting.
Thanks, Shane.
I-
Appreciate
I
it.
Clark,
have it all in my-
we're running the Life Pack 15. That is the most current model. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
So we're running the model that everybody else has. It's the most up to date, and they come in and do monthly service on it. So,
Yeah, we have no expectancy of it not having to replace it anytime soon. It gets annual maintenance every year, and there's no expectation that it's going to need to be replaced anytime soon.
Great. Thank you.
That, I gotta tell you, I'm glad to hear that, but that's kind of a contradiction in my mind. And when we say it has a life expectancy of 5 years, and we're not quite sure how many years in it is, but if it's 5 years in, even though it's on a maintenance contract, great. I just think we need to, be aware of that. And I think, Chief, you said maybe took that as a to-do to verify when we got it.
yeah, you know what? At a $30,000 cost, this should be on our capital plan. And I think what has been done in the past has been built into the purchase of the ambulance. But it should be on our capital plan as a line item at $30,000. That's a large enough number that it needs to be.
I agree. If there are no more comments about the budget proposal that the chief and I will take to Prudential next week, that I don't think needs a vote, just an agreement that that's what we'll take to Prudential and put in front of them. If you would like to formalize it with the vote, somebody make the motion.
So Rick, I'm not necessarily looking for a motion personally, but I would throw a comment here, and that is, if as we go down the road, we look at the expedition versus an ambulance with ALS, then I think if something had to be dropped off, I would push to try to get the deputy's current vehicle to last another year. I get the situation, but I'm saying if there was some place that something had to be cut, in my opinion, that's where I would make the cut.
No,
Agreed.
I would agree also.
And we also agree, and everybody thinks it makes more sense to go ALS with the ambulance for an extra $30,000.
Well,
Yes.
hang on. I want to get to that separately. First,
Okay.
separate from these proposed articles, the rest of the budget that we looked at, salaries, wages, operations, miscellaneous, what we're going to take by way of operating budget to Prudential next week. Consider that a package, and then we look separately at the articles that we're going to bring to Prudential. If we're okay with the budget proposed as we reviewed, then that's what we will take to Prudential on Monday for the general budget for the fire department.
Great.
And as I say, if there's no more discussion, we can take a vote to do that and then finish addressing the proposed articles.
So do you want a motion to take the current budget that's been discussed tonight forward to the Prudential Committee? If that's the case, then take that as a motion, please.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second,
And in favor, Pisano?
Conley,
Zace.
Okay. Now to these proposed articles. I will make the motion that we take both of these articles to Prudential next week to ask for them to be put on the annual district meetings agenda with a modification that I believe that the money that we should ask for the spare ambulance should be an amount, once we collect this data that Shane is looking for, to include getting the used ambulance, equipping it with ALS, and if we are in fact in need of replacing the ALS in the existing ambulance, to bundle that into one article covering our ambulance function.
second,
Any further discussion? Absent that,
So-
take,
About Kevin's, so the contingency plan is, we didn't agree on this, but I was in agreement with Kevin's analysis about trying to eke another year out of Joe's car. Is that, or are we just going to take that as we come to it?
I would like to just take it as we come to it and take both of these articles to Prudential. If they, with Ray's input and forecast, tell us that that might be a reach for the district, then we've all three have already agreed that the
Okay, all right. So
opportunity for
you'll
this
make
ambulance-
you'll make that call ad hoc.
Yes. That would be my thought, that
Okay.
we would propose both of these. They can be withdrawn, either or both could be withdrawn at any time ahead of the annual meeting. As you've seen at meetings in the past, sometimes articles are withdrawn and not even brought up. So if as the finances emerge, if there's a squeeze that we're asked to really make a reduction, then I would ask Joe to bear with his existing vehicle as best he can for another year and be gentle on it. And get this used ambulance as a priority. The funding would have to be authorized in May to take effect in 22, but we wouldn't actually be expending it until late December when
Right.
the vehicle
Okay, right.
becomes available.
So just for clarity, the second article is going to be inclusive of the extra costs for ALS for this one, as well as
Correct.
potential. Okay,
Right. Shane said that he hoped to
for
get us the
262. Right.
information.
Yeah. Okay.
If it turns out that in fact we need to renew the ALS equipment in the existing ambulance, then I think that an article to both purchase the spare ambulance and get two updated ALS packages is the kind of thing I'd see just as a single bundled proposal. Unless you think we ought to break them out into separate pieces.
No. I don't know if I have a strong opinion one way or the other on that.
Well, as I say, these can be modified after the presentation. So
Yeah. Okay.
when Ray and Prudential has a chance to chew on it, they may come back and ask us to modify it. But I just like a motion about what we think we'd like to do from our perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we've already made that and agreed and voted on it, right?
Right.
So, okay.
Moving on to new business.
And just so you know that Commissioner Pisano asked me to add, oh, I can't. Next slide.
1 second. I do think we need to back up for 1 second. And that is, I'm pretty sure we just did not vote on that. I'm pretty sure what we did, Rick, is you put it out there. I seconded it a little bit before the discussion, but I don't know that we actually had the vote there. And I just wanted to cross the T here.
Very good. Let's take the vote in favor. Pisano,
Conley,
Zace,
done. Okay. Chief, go ahead.
I just said you've asked me to include the capital plan as
Right.
part of the presentation, so I'll add the cardiac monitor in there as well, but that's kind of what we've discussed and what we've looked at, so.
Good. And so what this will
Mhm.
show for FY '22 will include the purchase of the spare ambulance.
right.
I'll put that in there. I'll put that in the capital plan.
Right.
It's worth noting too, that next year, the ambulance has a very high anticipated cost, so getting the deputy's vehicle and the spare ambulance this year is probably better to even out cost than to push it another year, but
I agree. Okay. We've done spare ambulance, we've done the deputy's car. We have two other proposals to consider. How's everybody holding up? All right. First is, let's do the
Or
last one.
frozen, or my screen's.
I see you moving, Adam.
Okay,
Back in business?
seems to unfrozen.
Good.
Yeah, no, so it's unfrozen.
Right. I want to take the second one first, or the third one second, rather, the legal. We have been contacted by a law firm that specializes in the kind
Right.
of issues that we often face. And they made a proposal to offer legal services in a package. Chief, do you want to speak to the nature of that?
sure. The attorneys, one of them was a town manager for many years, worked for Labor Relations Board in Boston. His partner worked for unions for many, many, many years. They come very well recommended. They specialize in supporting municipalities. That's what their whole business is. They support negotiations for contracts. They support employee law. They gave us a proposal. They were recommended highly by Bourne Fire Department, the county, and Chatham, and our insurance company. So our insurance company gave us their contact and said, this is who we would want to specialize in what we do. They gave us a proposal for a monthly, I guess you'd call it a retainer. So they're proposing a $350 monthly fee. And with that, you get free contact, anything less than half an hour or about half an hour. So their philosophy is they would rather have a chief or a town manager call them with a quick question, get a reasonably a good legal answer before they get themselves into trouble and cost more money and make more work for them. So you get free emails, free phone support every month, as many calls as you need to make. Anything over half an hour turns into an hourly rate. The hourly rate is $3.15 an hour. I'm sorry, $2.15 an hour.
215.
Compared to our current legal company that we had been using, which was $3.50 an hour. So if I looked at the last year period, analyzed every legal bill we had, and if we were to use the current contract under last year's model or last year's usage, it would be about a break even. So there is really no net cost to the monthly free contact service. However, if we did end up in a protracted legal battle, arbitration, having a lawyer that has a significantly lower hourly rate would save us a lot of money. So on a regular year, it's a wash. On a heavy year, it would be a positive. Plus, we have a legal team that specializes in what we do and isn't a general purpose lawyer.
Not to be sort of overly focused on details, it's close. It's not exactly a wash. $600 bucks. Yeah.
$500 difference, right? Given last year, I think it was $500 more. You saw the analysis I posted online. I think it was like
Right.
$600 more to do the monthly contract. Yes.
Okay.
And Chief, about that you posted, I could not tease out in that I don't think it was able to show that in contract negotiations years, we had the additional cost of the Boston contract attorney, which this firm would be
I-
able to
You're
handle
right. I
in-house.
I did not include the legal counsel we used for contract negotiations because we didn't do negotiations last year. So I didn't include that, right? But that's the other positive is having the same attorney do your contract development and negotiations and the same attorney do any kind of problem resolution on that contract has a lot of value.
Significant advantage.
One
And-
of the things, sorry, go ahead,
no, go
Chairman.
ahead.
Chief, you mentioned you in your presentation, you said the attorneys we had been using. Has there been a parting of ways with Gardula?
No, we still have the ability to choose to use them if we want to.
Oh, okay. So it was,
We were under the impression that they were our.
no. I was just making sure I was actively listening, and I heard you say had versus are using. So I was just wondering if there was anything to that. Sounds like there isn't.
No decision's been made by anybody official to terminate
Okay.
relationships or anything else. No.
Okay.
No, and it's been, as I have told the chief, it's been my impression that we received some good service from that firm. And if we didn't take this proposal, we may end up still using them. This proposal came along and seemed to offer some advantages that even with this annualized contract, which comes out to about $4,200 a year on that monthly retainer, when you average in every third year contract negotiation costs, for which we had to get a pretty pricey Boston lawyer to assist us with, I think this really has some distinct advantages for us going forward.
Have there been any other vetting activities other than what Chief mentioned?
The islands also use them. Barnstable County uses them. Chatham and Bourne specifically were very positive, but the most persuasive to me is that our insurer recommended them. They currently service over 20 community police and or fire contracts. I'm just listing the ones that are on the Cape. So these are to my mind, well recommended and pretty familiar figures.
Okay.
Now, I would like a motion to accept the proposal as put forward by Clifford and Kenny, the law firm, retain their services for a first year on that contract and see how it goes.
Can I just finish? I just want to reread the letter. I read it earlier.
Mhm.
Well, I would just use a lot of email, Chief. Okay. You're looking for a motion. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Second, in favor, Pisano?
Conley,
Zace.
Very good. Chief, I'll stop by to sign a hard copy of that, and we can forward it to them. Okay, last item. Firefighter physical fitness. There were two items in your materials for the meeting. One was a proposal made by one of the staff for improving structure and encouragement of physical fitness among the firefighters. The second was the brochure. Chief, do you want to background the brochure, the woman that came and presented?
Sure. Actually got the name from Jim Danhauser. He's got some colleagues that worked with her and recommended her. So this woman's name is Jessica Scott. She's a doctor of physical therapy and a certified athletic trainer. So she's recently started this company that is going to focus. Her father was a firefighter, going to focus on firefighter physical conditioning, and she offers packages that would include physical assessment of all our staff, detailed physical fitness plans, nutrition plans, continued support, weekly support as workouts, and monthly lectures on different topics, such as maybe stretching or nutrition. So she's offering these services, which I think has a lot of value. Spending a small amount now and could potentially save us a lot on IOD type issues later. At the same time, she came in and spoke with us. The union evidently has been discussing forming a committee for physical fitness. I think it's a physical fitness incentive committee, which the contract provides for. So the current union contract provides for, specifies that a committee shall be established, made up of one member from the union, one fire commissioner, the fire chief, and I think it says a member of the call department. So they've asked to implement this committee to start discussing what their proposal was, a physical fitness incentive. So they're proposing a financial incentive to being physically fit right now. We're looking at, I would discuss physical services, therapy services to prevent IOD injury. So I guess at this point in time, we're not asking for a appropriation or approval of service, but just to start an official committee. So I need a fire commissioner to start the discussion with the union and bring something back to the commissioners, actionable at some later point.
Yeah, Chief, I'd be happy to help out with that.
Good. Your volunteerism is accepted.
Great. We'll start some meetings, and I think it's a worthwhile. IOD was really high last year or the year before last, right? Last fiscal year, and it's in all of our interest to keep the firefighters in shape. We don't want them getting hurt. We want to ensure the financial responsibility for the district too. So I think there's some effort that we can make here.
I have two comments. The young woman's proposal as an outside firm providing service, I couldn't get anything from the brochure about cost. I don't know if there was a page I couldn't open or if it wasn't
No,
included.
it's just informational.
There's a website that's specified. If you go to the website, they specify some of the proposals, and she has like I said, a package that she would do a 1 hour assessment of each one of the individuals, a detailed physical fitness plan and nutrition plan, do a once a week workout, which people could come in off duty on their own time to participate in a monthly lecture. And that, I think, based on the number of people we have, I think her price that she had listed was about $10,000 for 6 months. So she's new. It's a new company. I'm sure we could do something on a monthly basis and see how it works out. And there might be some room for negotiation. So I know a $20,000 annual cost is a lot of money, but when you compare it to the $160,000 IOD cost we had 2 years ago, it's something worth discussing, I think.
Well, setting the cost aside for a moment, not that this is, I think, hugely important. And I'm glad that you're going to investigate this. This I think is a good thing.
There are larger fire departments that have their own physical therapists on staff. Big budgets, they see the value in doing this. So we're small, but we still can find opportunities to save money.
I'm sure we can get one of those tractor tires donated and a bunch of sledgehammers and see you guys going at it.
We have
there.
we have one of those, and the guys use it. So
yeah.
Kevin, I would ask that as you participate in the forming of this committee and their first discussions, One of the concerns I have is the initial draft. I could not monetize what those incentives were going to add up to. And so I'd like to,
Is this the
make
gym?
sure-
Is this the gym idea you're talking about, Rick?
yeah,
Okay.
the proposal was put forth by one of the firefighters. Was it Brian?
It was firefighter Brian Lee, yes.
Okay. And, I think there were some good ideas in it. I couldn't see numbers, which I would have to see. So, that would be part of your sitting down with them. But I also think exploring what this woman offers by way of a package, it doesn't have to be an either or. There may be a way to dovetail these two things. But I'm also very pleased to see us looking into this. I think it's a critical area.
I agree with all of the above, and I'm very happy to see that Brian Lee, one of our newer members of the department, brought it forward. So all goodness.
Very good.
That Kevin, that means you have to go through the obstacle course too.
I thought he was going to be the tractor tire that they flip.
Yeah. Or he's going to be the dummy that gets dragged as.
Yeah, just tell me what days it's happening. I'm not coming to the firehouse on those
There
days.
you
I don't
go.
want to be too close.
I'm going to get my son down and we're going to videotape this bad boy.
Okay. Well, thank you all for
Okay, thank you.
sitting in for a long meeting. I think we got a lot done. We will be meeting with Prudential on this budget next Monday. And if I don't have occasion to see you before the 29th, we will all be together for the big joint meeting
Okay.
with Prudential.
Okay,
So with that, I would entertain the motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second, Pisano, in favor?
Conley.
Zace.
Pisano, very good. Thank you all, gentlemen. Have a
Okay,
good evening.
thank you. All right.